Our next speaker is Dr. K. Sasirega, Assistant Professor of English, Mirkas Manikyam College of Arts and Science, Madurai. Dr. Sasirega has 20 years of teaching experience and organized national level conferences, workshops, and faculty development program, and also chaired many sections for paper presentation and works as a language consultant for stylics, proofreading, and editing publication in 10 journals and presented 17 papers in international conferences and published two book chapters. And Dr. Sasirega also working as a research supervisor and handled the 17 technical session and submitted 3 project proposals. And also member of ELTAI, Indian Society for Technical Education. Now I hand over in this session to you, ma'am.
Good evening, all, and many thanks for the brief introduction. And this is an academic opportunity for me, for a researcher, to share his or her views with this scholarly audience. And straight away, we just move to our presentation. I believe my screen is getting shared. Can someone
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, thank you. And the topic for this session is mechanics of research writing, choosing an apiary and publishing. On this title, I would like to proceed this presentation. So to understand the research writing, its mechanics, and how to choose theory, and the final stage, of course, when it comes to any research writing, is should end with publishing. So we'll just see all these three components in the following presentation. And to start with, let's understand what is research writing and why it is important, and the requisite for research writing. See, if I have to answer all these questions in a single chart, it is, of course, we all know that I believe the participants must be pursuing your PhD or must have completed your PhD, and in the process of writing many research articles, and must be from academic field. So it's very crystal clear. Research writing is basically an academic writing, which is based on the series of investigations. When it is a non-science paper, humanities paper or humanity research area, the researcher will proceed the research based on investigations. The investigation could be conducted in the form of collecting data from different sources. And if it is a non-humanity paper, which is a science paper or engineering paper, that research writing would be based on the experiments, a series of experiments, and sometimes in the laboratory, certain times it will be in a different study field itself. So, however, research writing is a kind of academic writing, and it is a very authenticated and meticulous way of a researcher to authenticate his own research. And the outcome of this research writing is going to be the new site or the new finding to the existing researchers. And as I said earlier, it is an authentic documentation. It is a research writing is an authentic documentation for the research which has been carried away by the researchers in a different period, in a different field, using different tools, all those things. So that would serve as a platform for the young researchers and aspiring researchers to continue their research from the from that path. And if it is not academic based research, and if it is for industry, then it is very obvious there also research taken place in the form of R&D. See, for example, the car which comes to us on road would have undergone so many researches, and there is no end point for research. There is a separate R&D department. Every now and then or periodically they work from bonnet to that back wheel, so that every components either they would modify or they would customize, or else based on the pitfalls they will recover it. All those things would happen. That's why earlier only high-end cars has got that life-saving bags. Nowadays it has been introduced to the driver and later to the co-passengers. Now those who are at the rear seats also getting the life bags. Seat belt has been given in that way. So that is one example which I could quote for how R&D takes place, how research takes place in industries. And there also research writing by industrialists are possible, and that is also happening. Those writing would come as a documentation, and based on that documentation only further researches in any field, whether it is education or industry, uh, irrespective of that, it takes place. That is how we should understand why research writing is important. And the next slide, which talks about research writing, it's for researchers. So we know what is research. Let's understand first whether the research or the writing, the research writing, is it for a full dissertation or for a research paper. Accordingly, we have to decide our writing stylistics also. Whether it is a research paper or else a full dissertation, we have to start with the framing a research topic. When to frame a research title or a topic, always there is a ready source available for us is the research area. So in which research area the research has been conducted, based on that only the topic could be finalized. If it is engineering based in automobile field, then the research topic, the research area is automobile engineering. So from that, the topic has to be framed. The all right, and that could be a very generic example. In the automobile engineering, if you wanted to talk only about the wheel alignment, then that narrows down the scope for choosing the research, for framing the research topic. See, automobile engineering, then it has come to wheel alignment. So, and wheel alignment not in all the cars, only in a very particular version or else only in the particular type. So that way it could be further streamlined, and the research topic could be wheel alignment in SUV or XUV or else sedan. That way it could be further more specific. This is an example which I could give for science or engineering background researchers. If it is a language paper, or if it is in humanities, again that choosing the research topic and framing is again based on our research area only. See, for example, if it is an archaeology and I want to talk about the artifacts collected in different places, then so that cannot serve as a topic. It has to be further scrutinized and it has to be tightened with the further, and it has to be framed as a clear title. So in that case, where that study is going to be conducted, Tamil Nadu. All right. So Tamil Nadu, again, a broad area in India. It's a state. So inside Tamil Nadu, which is the exact location? So that way, the topic could be further refined, and that would lead it to be more specific. So that is another example which I could give for the framing the research topic in archaeology department. See, the artificts identified in Madurai, India. So this is another example which I could quote. And if it is in the language field, in the English language proficiency, all right. We all know that English language proficiency is required for almost for all profession and almost for all job position. So, what the researcher wants to convey through the research topic can be furthermore specific. So, English language proficiency for business communication. So the keyword business communication is defining the research topic with, with more light. So now it is clear. So business communication. When it comes to business communication, again, though it has been narrowed down, it could be further more specific. Because even BBA students, commerce students, MBAs, all are doing business communication. So who is going to be the sample group, or with whom we are going to test or develop the business communication? That could be more specific in the research topic itself. In that case, business communication for undergraduate or postgraduate, that keyword, undergraduate or postgraduate, that keyword, introduction of keyword, would make the research topic furthermore clear. I believe these examples would have served the researchers a different idea about how to frame a research topic. Once the topic has been decided, we'll be moving on to taking up the research with the help of different research tools. So when it comes to research tools, we have various types of tools available in the research field. It starts with conventional tools, and it is going to be very specific need-based software also. Let's see what are the conventional tools. The conventional tools, the very basic conventional tool is collecting a data by circulating a questionnaire. Nowadays, collecting the questionnaire is made it very simple. Google Forms have made it very simple. So the questionnaire, instead of pen and paper, it has been transferred to computer. Anyway, the data collection remains the same. So the one very common and conventional tool, which even today has been followed almost by all the researchers, irrespective of their field, is data collection using questionnaire. And the questionnaire itself, we could include opinion also. The opinions could also be collected. And then inside the questionnaire, we follow a Likert scale, or else sometimes open-ended questions and answers. Otherwise, a parameter has been given, from satisfied to very dissatisfied. Like that, different scales could also be given, different parameter could be given to find out the opinion of the samples. And software is actually, if you want to take up an experiment in the laboratory, naturally specific software, if it is in the mathematic field, MATLAB would have a specific software. Maybe if the research area is in a graphic theory, then in connection with graphic theory, there is going to be exclusive software available in the MATLAB. And that particular software which is installed in the MATLAB is going to be one of the latest tool for the researcher in mathematics field. Accordingly, the research tool is not going to be very fixed for every researcher. As per the research topic, as per the research area, it is going to be vary. And anyway, uh, it must have the data collection. That's what I feel. So collection of data, once it's over, the next step for research writing for researcher is the data should be interpreted. How many of them given this kind of answer, that kind of answer, all those things have to be interpreted. And now you have to thank the technology researchers to be very thankful for the technology nowadays, because once after exploiting ICT in academics, interpretation of data is becoming uh, little little comfortable for the researchers, in the sense, if the questionnaire has been circulated using the Google Forms, then the Google form is going to classify your answers, classify the response, how many yes, how many no, and the open-ended answers, all those things can be classified and it will come to your mail ID itself. So that way you can simplify the process of interpretation of data using ICT. All right. So the data has, when you study meticulously the data collected for your research, that would generate and develop your research ideas. That will give you a research insight, and that will give you a kind of motivation, and it will serve as a kind of payment for how the research has to be taken. So there would be, you would either find more research questions after interpreting the data, or else there would be more clarification from the data interpreted, or there would be more solutions. Either it is going to be more research questions to help the researcher, or else it's going to be more solutions from the data collector, or it's going to be more clarification. This is the way the interpretation of data is going to help the researcher in developing the research idea. However, it's a academic writing and it is a scientific writing. So there is no room for imagination or creativity over here. It is based on the insights, inputs, experiments, etc. So it is going to be highly scientific writing. So the earlier slides gave us an idea about why research writing is important, what is research writing in the field of academics, in the field of industry, all those things, and how we have to frame a title. All those things have been discussed in the earlier slide. This slide, we are going to see the session highlights. So the title versus working title, of course, it has been elaborated in the previous slide also with the different examples. Then theory selection, if it is a humanities paper or a literature paper, usually the researchers would choose an appropriate theory. In case if it is an engineering research or a science research or a mathematical research, there won't be, I guess there won't be any room for theory selection. Instead, in that place, it would be like a phenomenon, or else it could be some principle, or else some law. It would be replaced, instead of a theory, it could be replaced with the principles or definitions or laws. That's how I wanted to justify theory selection over there. Then once the theory has been selected, can I be excused for a second? Let me attend a call and get back to you. Just a moment, just a moment. All right, it got disconnected. Fine. So fine. So the either if it is a literature or else a humanities paper, research paper, we would have an identify appropriate theory. In case if it is science paper and engineering paper, instead of theory, we are going to replace it with the what is that called, the phenomenon or principles or definitions, laws, it goes that way. All right. Even after the theory has been selected, once the theory has been selected, we'd be moving towards literature review. Literature review is it is that start point of any research. It is the start point of any research. See, literature review is all about a thorough study of the early researchers and the existing researchers. Based on that only, we would be generating more research ideas. It is not just data collection, it is the earlier researchers. The earlier research documents can be retrieved from books, research articles, from web sources, or else from library, digital library also. Then let's see the writing mechanics involved in basic writing mechanics involved in research writing. Then the research writing should include research objective or else the research question. Roughly once after fixing the title and the data collection, you would have some research objective. All right, as a researcher, this is what I wanted to find out in the experiment. These are the questions which I'm going to answer in my research. Like that, we would, as a researcher, we could confirm about our research objective or research questions. And once the research objective has been finalized, the next step would be on research methodology. Research methodology again involves about taking up experiment and writing simultaneously. So research methodology, it's a two-way process. Simultaneously, experiments has to be conducted and the results have obtained has to be recorded properly, and writing should also be should be done periodically, regularly, based on the experiments and other things. Interpretation of data analysis has been discussed already. Still, I would say that it is that every time when we interpret the data which you collected or the experiment which you have done would make your research idea goes in a 360-degree dimension. It will deep root in your research mind, and every time when it has been interpreted, you would get different research dimension. So that would develop a research discrete idea about how you are going to take up your research. That's why again, to insist that point only, the interpretation of data analysis has been mentioned over here. And after interpretation of data analysis, it will be conducted in the form of writing, and it will end up as findings. Findings could be conclusion, suggestion, recommendation, summary, and the future scope of study. All these are the components to be included in the findings. And as a researcher, we must be aware how to give the references, whatever we quoted or cited in throughout our research article or a dissertation, whether it is MLA format or APA format or IEEE format. The researchers might be knowing MLA is a format which literature students are expected to follow. APA is a format for humanities, and IEEE is an exclusive format for engineering researchers. All right. So these slides would have given you an idea about the data collection, interpretation of data, and all those things. And I just said a simultaneous process to be followed. One is just doing experiments or conducting researching in our exclusive field, and writing on the other hand. When it comes to writing, nowadays the biggest challenger for any research writer is avoiding plagiarism. Here are the experimented and experienced uh, solution for avoiding plagiarism. Read instead of reading online. As a researcher, I would recommend you to read it in books, in a book form, or else in a printed form. So that will not tempt you to copy paste the content. Um, Again, it depends on the researchers, and so many factors involved here. But what I feel is, when it is online reading, it is a screen reading. Naturally, we would get tired very soon and exhausted very soon. So, if it is in a printed version, it's very easy for us to reread a few pages, and it's quick, easy for us to comprehend also. So it is if we proceed methodologically this way, definitely there won't be any chance of committing plagiarism. Read, comprehend, draft, write, edit, revisit, rewrite. Comprehend is you just understand. We all know that it is just understanding what is given over there. Then drafting is roughly you draft what you understood about the particular reading session. That could be drafted using, then the draft could make you to write, and you could read it on your own sometimes, or you could take the help of your co-researchers, fellow researchers, your supervisor, your research supervisor, your friends, anybody to edit it. The reason is very simple. When we reread our own writing, our brain will not easily identify the mistakes. It will just overlook. The design of the brain is in such a way, so it will overlook the mistakes. When it is given to a third party, or someone confidential and a very neutral person to go through our material, editing would help us to identify the errors. So once after that, we could revisit and rewrite. This is, if we proceed this method, definitely there won't be any chance of committing plagiarism. Because almost, even though if there are language errors, that could be retrieved very easily, since it is your original writing, there won't be any chance of plagiarism. And these are the few alert tips I would like to give regarding plagiarism. Any scholarly journal will not accept a plagiarism. 15% of the plagiarism is accepted in scholarly journals, below 15%. And 25% itself is considered as a high percentage of plagiarism in scholarly journals. So to avoid these things only, it has been recommended to read and write on our own. Though the process appears to be laborious in the beginning, that would become our part of our research. It is not an Herculean task. It has to be, the reading habit has to be further developed to understanding, drafting, writing, and goes to getting help from our friends for editing. Then when we revisit and writing, the process appears to be very lengthy when I try to explain it in words. But when you put it in practice, it is not going to be that lengthy process. It is going to be time bound, I guess. And editing, if you cannot rely on third party, then you after 2-3 days you could revisit the same material, so that it's easy for your eyes, your brain to identify the mistakes. Then we could always improve our own writing. And there are, see, plagiarism checker, it is software based and it is automated. Most of the software works in a the operating system. When we analyze the operating system of the plagiarism software, see, if a sentence, it will detect, if a sentence has been fed to the software, it will identify if we have taken 5 words or 5 words from a particular sentence, then it will be, it is going to be a plagiarism, which includes the grammatical components like prepositions, tenses, articles, even punctuation mark also. So this simple idea you have to register in your mind when you take up research writing. No 5 words from a sentence to be rewritten or shouldn't be copied from any source in your own writing. If you feel that it is very impressive and very effective and it fit in very well in your research writing, then you have to cite it properly. So citation will exempt that particular item from the plagiarism. And below the names, Urkun, Turnitin, Scribber, Grammarly, these are all the soft plagiarism checker software. And open sources also there and paid versions also there to check plagiarism. And maybe the researchers could try. There are trial versions, open sources are available in the websites. The researchers can try any of these plagiarism software for a part of their article or part of their chapter. And all right, so again, we continue how to avoid plagiarism. Only way is track sources and cite appropriately. And earlier I said read and write should go hand in hand. That I just mentioned should go together. Now, there is one more component you have to keep in your mind while writing or while drafting is tracking sources. From which source you have taken what, from where, what is the source taken. Everything has to be recorded properly. That will help you to track the sources and cite appropriately throughout your chapters, throughout your article. So that is one simple way, that acknowledging the resources which you have used in your research article is a simple way to avoid plagiarism. And again, in the previous slide, I just hinted about the formats, the citation formats. As per your study, you choose your appropriate referencing format and go from the title page, title till the end session. That is the reference session as per the as per your research requisite. And read, comprehend, write originally along with your research proceedings. Research proceedings or findings or processes, whatever it may be, it is, see, research is not an overnight process. It is not a week period process. It is not a month period process. It is not a year period process. It is going to be there for several few years at least, at the minimum of 2 to 3 years. So that research period has to be recorded in the form of research proceedings. Whenever I proceed with something, my research is going to give some discrete findings with fluctuation, obviously with fluctuation. Every time the end result is not going to be the same result. It is going to be different, and the process would also be the same way. So periodically, that should also be written down along with our interpretation of data analysis to avoid plagiarism. And even the keyword, if you, this is very important for researchers doing the science-based researchers. You would have to use a set of keywords. When you try to use the set of keywords from a sentence or from a paragraph, you try to substitute with one word substitution or synonyms, or else you can expand it otherwise. Either use one word substitution or synonyms for the set of keywords. Otherwise, you just expand it. The example which comes to my mind regarding one word substitution is, see, for example, instead of linguist, you could say the one who studies language in detail. And synonym could also be appreciation, increases in value. Something decreases. Instead of decrease, you could say downfall. Like that, you just go for appropriate one-word substitution or synonyms, so that there won't be any chance of reusing the same set of keywords in your writing. That is another practical way to avoid plagiarism. All right. See, we do research writing for various purposes. My purpose will not be your purpose, your research purpose will not be my purpose. So you just, you have to identify your purpose of research writing. Why do you write research writing? Is it for journal publication or for paper presentation in a conference, whether it is a national level conference or a book chapter? Like that, you just identify your research needs. Accordingly, you have to nurture your writing, research writing practice also. Different forums are there. For what forum I'm just writing, or as a researcher I'm working on? Is it a conference paper or a research article? Sometimes it could be a book chapter, the whole dissertation, or a chapter of dissertation. Keep for which forum you are taking up the research writing in that particular moment. Accordingly, you could decide. That would help you to understand the purpose of your research writing. And it's an academic writing. Research writing is purely an academic writing to make, to differentiate general writing and research writing. Below are the language rules to be followed by any researchers. When it comes to academic writing, when it comes to research writing, in the earlier slide I mentioned it as a pure scientific writing. When it is a scientific writing, no adjectives and intensifiers to be used, like very strong. Very is not needed over there. Is instead of very strong, you could say that the equivalent word as per your research area. Then no adjectives like deep downfall. So deep could be avoided over there, because we are just making a record of a document of several experiments, several studies only. So definitely no adjectives and intensifiers. I believe this would be an important and informative writing tip for the researchers. And as far as the narration is concerned, it shouldn't be I conducted, we conducted. It is not first person. It is not you conducted, second person. It has to be in the third person narration only. See, the action which is done during the research period should be highlighted. It is not who has done the research. So it is not either you or me or he or she. It should be in a neutral tone. To make it neutral, to highlight the experiments, to highlight the study, we recommend third person narration. for any research writing. Concord is what we call it a subject-verb agreement. When you write a sentence, there is going to be a subject and there is going to be a verb that should agree with each other. So you have to, as a researcher, you have to see to that also. Then the other pitfall for any of the researchers is using the prepositions. It's a big challenge for Indian researchers. We get tempted to misuse the prepositions. And to quote an example is always, even language researchers and non-language researchers, they just open their paragraph with this paragraph discussed about. That as a discuss about is not required over there. It isn't redundant. That's what I mean by right prepositions. Avoid unnecessary prepositions also. There may be a question, what's wrong in using discussed about? See, when you say discussed about, you don't mean that what you are going to discuss in that particular paragraph. Instead, it is a roundabout way of telling that. That's what when we literally use discussed about. So the following paragraph discuss these details will do. It is not discussed about. And the same way, when we are not sure, we use a preposition, a kind of preposition like by. Instead, maybe for time, mentioning the time period, instead of using the by preposition, we can think of using at preposition and between and sometime before the year and other things, right preposition. So you please, as a researcher, you should have developed you should understand the basic grammar rules required for it also. These areas will help you to make your language more correct. That is learning the basic prepositions. Then punctuation mark plays a very vital role. And here, obviously, you could use hyphen, dashes, colon, semicolon. Almost all the punctuation marks would be used throughout our dissertation. So, and whenever we quote something, it has to be in double quotations, citation. So, punctuation, it plays a very vital role. And if we miss the punctuation, that is another loophole for that may lead it for plagiarism. So proper care to be given for punctuation as well. And another grammatical input, what we could give over here for research writing is use impersonal passive. As I said earlier, it's a scientific writing, it's a technical writing, it's an academic writing. So who is doing what is not at all important for the research forum is what the research is, why the research has been conducted, what is the finding. So it has to be throughout the chapters, throughout the book, it has to be in impersonal passive only. One example to make you understand what is impersonal passive is the thief is caught. By police is not required. That is understood. The dam is built by engineers is not required. It is understood. It is inbuilt, actually. It is inbuilt. This is how we are expected to make our sentences as impersonal passive. Fine. So it is like we know how to write, how to frame all those things. Now, at last, it has to be either published in a research article or it has to be published as a dissertation copy. So below are another few check measures to make it fit for publication. Be ethical. Yes, sometimes we wanted to be personally, you may be interested to be very ethical, but the situation may force you to be unethical also. I cannot comment on this part, but at last, if you feel that it is, sometime we should feel accomplished by by our work. If you really want to enjoy the pride of your work, and if you feel that it is your property, it is your brainchild, then no other substitute over here than to be ethical. Believe in your potential. Uh, when you take up a research, someday something must have inspired you. It might be for a survival purpose, but the course of research, though you would have started for survival purpose or for a career upgradation, the research current would influence you, and that will bring out the inner potential from the researcher. When you just trigger that potential, trigger that spark, there won't be any shortcuts. As a researcher, you will not believe in shortcuts. You will carry forward your entire research in a straight right path. If it is not a dissertation, if it is a kind of research article, and if you wanted to publish it in a journal, a scholarly journal, then as a researcher, you please be aware of predatory journals. And the simple way to identify the predatory journals is it will not come to your mail. If it is a if a publisher says that your article will be published a fortnight, or within a month, or in the next quarterly, that is a kind of a temptation. That is a kind of really, it is a kind of a trap only. If a scholarly journal will not come to our doorsteps, we have to be after them. So that is one simple way of identifying the predatory journal. And it will not come to our inbox at all. So we will be searching it in the different database. And money transaction and in bank transfer, they are alerting us about the spelling and grammar in the mail. The same way, if we check the spelling and websites of the journal names or the reviewer names, there would be a kind of spelling mistakes or some grammatical error. That is another way to identify a cloned or a predatory journal. And in case, in somewhere, if you are getting the phone number in the publisher's website, you check for the country code. And if the phone number is given without a country code, then that is another simple way that may not be an authenticated one. And sometimes it has come to your mail, you'll be getting tempted to know, maybe, or else you would be in a pressure, or you may be in the verge of completion. So may in a position to publish your paper before your DC meeting, or like that, there would be different research pressure in different period. So it has come to your mail for publishing your research article. And if it gives instant reply, auto-generated reply, definitely don't go for that. Definitely 99% if it gives instant reply, and if it confirms that your paper will be processed in 2 weeks time, in a 3 months time, definitely that is a it's a common sense. It's a common sense. See, even if it is a peer-reviewed journal, it has a time process. If it is a blind review, it has a time process. So instant review cannot be possible at any cost. So once after making your writing complete, check for authenticated publishers, and it is not anyone, it is you. Even your research supervisor cannot help you in identifying the right forum to publish your research article. it is you have to decide that. When the see, various tips has been given already to avoid plagiarism, and at the same time I talked about public how to identify the right publisher also. The simple way is checking in the database itself. Checking the database in the sense, if you find out the particular journal is indexed in SciMago, these are the website. If we check the website, that will give you the list of indexed journals, H-indexed journal or SciMago indexed, or WOS, Web of Science, then Scopus or Elsevier, whatever it is, the name should be given in within the database itself. And the same way you could check it for UGC Careless, Scopuslet, and Elsevier. And periodically, that is not permanent. Any database is not permanent. And before your publication, you have to definitely check the database very carefully, because any time, since it evolves, changes many times, it may be inclusion, there may be inclusion and there may be deletion. So before, timeline is very important. And sometimes when you published, it must be there in the Scopus sled, and afterwards it may be removed. For that, as a researcher, you need not worry. When your article published, for example, in 2020, and it has been included in Scopus list, that will do, because that is going to be there in the database. That might be removed in 2020-22. That's not your botheration. When your paper is published, when your paper was article was published, that was in the list. That journal was in the list. That must be there in the database. That's why I'm asking you to check the database. This is the simple rule regarding publication. And by this slide, I just come to an end about end of my presentation on the topic research writing, choosing an appropriate theory, and publication. Thanks for the patient listening, and I believe the presentation would have served the purpose, and it would have given you a few insights regarding how to take up research writing, and how to identify different theories or principles or laws, whatever it may be, according to your research. And at last, the research writing mechanisms, and finally, how to publish it in an authenticated and scholarly journal. With that, I just stop my presentation. If there is any queries, I'm ready to answer it. Do I have participants? Should I answer any of your queries? So it appears no queries. Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. You are audible.
Oh, yes, yes. Okay. So I guess there is. Yes.
Yes, Doctor, good afternoon from Ghana.
Good
I'm
afternoon, sir.
Ibrahim Haruna. Yes, I'm Ibrahim Haruna from Ghana. Thank you for your presentation. I have been following you over the weeks and months. Every time you are selected to present your your works with us, and I must say that you are a very good teacher. Um, um, you explain things very well and deeply, and it makes it very difficult for people not to comprehend. That is why you see that there's no much plenty questions being asked to you, because you have explained it, taking your time to explain everything in detail. My question is, you spent a lot of time with explaining to us in detail about we doing it, relying on yourself and checking the indexed journal. You gave us four: SC Imago database, UGC Careless, Scopus Less. I may I ask that, is it exhaustive, or there are more database that we can also go to uh, check out for authentic journals?
Let me tell whether you just confirm whether I understood your question properly or not. You wanted to know any other check measure available to identify the journalist. Am I right?
Yes, please. Apart from the list you gave us.
See, as far as I know, there is no other alternative options. Only thing is, sometimes we could check with our research supervisors, our co-researchers, and other persons whoever we rely on for our research ideas. But when it comes to publication, based on my experience, checking the database alone will be the final solution for publishing the article. Sometimes even the research supervisors may not be clear about which website is an authenticated website and which is a cloned website, which is a predatory journal, which is an original journal. But when we check it in the database, numerous journals are there, multidisciplinary journals are there. So, however, we are going to get a name of a journal. Yes, without a name, no publisher is going to approach the researchers. So it's very easy to check the publisher's name in that particular database. If they say the particular journal is available in the Scopus indexed, then Scopus database is the only source to identify whether the particular journal is indexed in Scopus database or not. Sometimes I told no, that would have been there in the past, like in 2021 till December, but afterwards it might have been removed from their database. That is also going to be there when we check it in the database. So as far as I know, that is the only way to identify the a scholarly journal. Database check is the authenticated way of doing it.
All right, thank you. My next question is, in your presentation, I think the previous 2 slides or 3 slides, you highlighted on the type of referencing that a particular journal would prefer. Some prefer MLA.
Yes.
And APH.
APA.
So yes, APA, American Psychology Association. Okay,
Yes.
Doc, please, if a journal writes both MLA and APA, submitting your journal to the submitting your manuscript to the journal, can you mix both references in APH and MLA, or you take one, since they have provided all as acceptable references?
Mr. Ibrahim, we are not supposed to mix up both styles, because consistency is another important element in research writing. And one more thing, see, we are going to get writing guidelines also. If you wanted to publish your paper in a particular journal, the journal website would have been giving you writing guidelines. there itself they would be asking you either to follow MLA format or APA format. No journal will accept mixing up of 2 reference style or 3 reference style. Consistency is another degree to be followed in academic and research writing. Is that okay?
Yes, please. That's very okay. And in your presentation also, you made it clear to us some group of study that they require MLA. You made mention of humanities, and you made categorically that exclusive for engineering researchers, right? MLA. You stated
MLA,
that.
sorry.
Yes,
Yes.
MLA. Yeah. You stated that it's exclusive for engineering researchers and also for humanities, right?
MLA is actually for literature and humanities. For engineers, it is IEEE format. IEEE format. Their reference would
Okay.
be, yes.
Okay. So what about APH? Any exclusive research area for APH? APA, sorry, APA.
APA is for language, sociology. That's what I guess. Yes, but definitely it is meant for language papers and humanities papers. APA format.
Okay. All right. It's very clear now. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Yes, sir.
Hello. Ma'am, I have a question. When we write any journal or research, we say sometimes we use Rig Veda, Puran, Ramayana, Sukti or Slok many times. Then what we should do in this case? We cannot change the language. We cannot change word. Then how can we count in percentage 15, 25? Clear it, ma'am.
Sir, that's very simple. You have to acknowledge from where, that's why I told track the sources and acknowledge the sources. If it has been, if you feel that it has been taken exactly from Ramayana or any other epic, and if your using is as such, it is there in the textbook, you have to acknowledge it. Like, so this source has been taken from. All right. There are several ways to acknowledge the particular work in the sentence itself. You have to follow that. Acknowledging is only way of avoiding plagiarism. When you use the words exactly, if you are using the words, sentences as it is, it has to be given within punctuation marks. If a double quotation, if it is given within double quotation, it is understood that you are quoting someone's idea, someone's words. Then you inside your text itself, you should have the details over there. For from which source you have taken it, and from page number, all those details.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Ma'am,
Thank you, sir.
please clear once. Doctrinal and non-doctrinal method we use in thesis. Please clear it.
So come again, sorry.
Ma'am, there are two methods in thesis, doctrinal and non-doctrinal method. Doctrinal.
Doctor and I.
Doctrinal and non-doctrinal method.
Sorry, sir, I couldn't get you. Could you rephrase your question? You wanted to know how the title doctor to be used in the thesis or in the research?
Doctrinal method, Siddhant Vidhi. We use doctrinal and non-doctrinal method in thesis.
Could you spell it out, sir? Let me try to answer your question.
Doctrine method and non-doctrine.
Doctor method. Could organizer help me in getting this question?
Okay, no, can I
No clear.
make
No
it
clear.
can I make it clear to you a little? He's saying that in physics, in
Yes.
science, physics, yes, there are two methods that they use. The one method that they use is called doctrinal, and then the second method they use is non-doctrinal.
All right.
Yes. All right.
Fine. Sir, actually, I belong to humanities, so I do not know much about the physics procedure and other things. So sorry, I'm not in a position to answer your question regarding the two different methods which you use in your physics project. Sorry about it.